Hello and good morning, folks. Welcome to another great episode of Money Truth Moments with our regular host, Judy Copenbarger. Welcome. How you doing?
I am doing great here from the high mountains and the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. I'm really glad to be here with you this morning, Carlos.
Well, I appreciate you making time. I knew that you were out of town, but hey, it looks like you're in a very cool place. So I'm a little jealous. I have to tell you that.
It's an awesome place, and you're welcome anytime.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Hey, so we have a lot to cover this week. I've been very totally into your book. And folks, if you haven't checked this out, it is Money, Truth, and Life. It's the Amazon bestseller for Judy, and it's a great book. I am just totally into it. We're going to talk a little bit about chapter 4 in this book today, and we're also going to talk to you guys a little bit more about resources available from Money, Truth, Life, the website. If you're not following Judy, you have to follow her. Her website is judycopenbarger.com. And for very special offers for our listeners, if you dial in at judycopenbarger.com/truth, there will be a very special opportunity for you to get some really good things from Money, Truth, and Life. While we're talking about this, do you want to tell them just a little bit, because I know we'll talk about this later, about your mastery program?
Oh, absolutely. The online mastery program is an amazing course designed for everyone to learn about all the 5 pillars of finance. So it covers everything you need to know about legal, which we'll be discussing a little bit today, everything you need to know about taxation. And it's not just income tax, it's all the other taxes. Some are even invisible to you, but how you can eliminate or at least mitigate the taxes that you pay each year, each week, each month. So it covers also investments, the kinds of investments, the ones that are maybe good for you and not good for you, because everybody's circumstance is different. It goes into the different types of IRAs, the different types of retirement programs, the non-qualified programs, and then there's insurances. And there's many kinds of insurance as well. There's insurance for your car, insurance for your house, insurance for your business, liability insurance, theft insurance, making sure that your life is protected. There's life insurance not only for your family, but for your business succession and maybe for your legacy planning and thinking. It just covers all 5 pillars of finance in detail. So you have a basic knowledge and you know enough to know what questions to ask.
Very cool. Can't wait to learn more about that. We'll talk a little bit more about this in the show. But I want to jump right into chapter 4 for the book. So I've actually read chapter 4 several times, not only because, and by the way, folks, it is titled How to Legally Protect Yourself and Your Family. And these are some key areas that we're going to discuss with Judy today. With everything that's going on right now, we see a lot more tragedy with folks losing their jobs, being unprepared, losing their businesses. I have personal friends as well as family members who are currently going through not planning properly and are stuck in probate. So that's maybe something we can talk a little bit about that too, how to better prepare ourselves. So with that said, Judy, I would love for you to share with folks how can we legally protect ourselves and our family today?
Wow. Well, there's so many angles. There's so many ways that you can be exposed legally. But, you mentioned probate, and there's a lot of misunderstandings about probate. A lot of people don't really know what it is or why it could be good for you. But there's the downside too. So what probate is it's one of the court systems in our country. And it's probably the most efficient court system that we have. And what it does is protect people. So if you are 18 or under, it protects you under the guardianship rules. If you're 18 or older, it protects you under the conservatorship rules. Then we have to make sure that we protect someone that can't speak for themselves because they're deceased. There's also incapacity. So if you're deceased, you can't say, no, wait, that guy owes me money, right? And so This is a system that makes sure that when someone passes away, we call them the decedent, that the court makes sure that anyone who owes that person or that person's estate pays them so the heirs can receive that money. Anyone that person owes money to, it makes sure that they get that money to the people that they owe it to or the companies that they owe it to. Then we look at what's left. What we call that is the remainder. What remains is the remainder, what's left. And we say, okay, well, who do we give it to now? This guy doesn't need it anymore, right? Because he's our decedent. So is there a spouse? Are there children? Are there stepchildren? Are there parents? Are there other people? Are there other guardians or other dependents? And if not, what do they want to have happen? And that's where a court, probate court, will look at a will if a person had a will. And what all of you viewers need to know is even if you haven't taken the time to write down a will or create one with an attorney, a formal will, you have a will. And we're in California, and so the state of California has a will for you. And they say, we're going to pay all these people. We're going to pay all these attorneys to settle everything, first of all. We're going to pay all these people. We're going to have an executor who's appointed to take, charge of everything. And their job is to make sure that all those bills get paid, all the money that is owed gets brought in, and then the distribution occurs of the remainder. So who gets it? How much do they get? Under what conditions do they get it? If there are any taxes due, who pays the taxes, and how is that done? So the probate court handles all that. With that being said, it's a thorough system. It's a great system. It does a great job, but most people don't like it because they say it takes too long and it costs too much. And for the most part, I would agree. In California, it could take 2 to 5 years or longer if there's a business or a property that needs to be checked out. And that's normal. I mean, 2 or 3 years is not a long time for probate in most states, particularly the larger ones on the coast. If you have any issues where somebody wants to contest the will, or they were promised something and they want that to be delivered, that can make it take even longer. And then when it comes to the cost in every state in the United States is statutory. That means we don't get to vote for how much the attorneys get paid. We don't get to vote for how much the accountants get paid or how much the executor gets paid. It's all statutory. So it's going to come right off the top of the distribution before it's even made. So, and it's pretty high. You can plan on around, as an average, there's a sliding scale based on the size of the estate, but you can plan on an average between 5 and 8% of the estate that is going to go to the cost. Then there's also filing fees, and it can be thousands of dollars just to open the case and file the papers with the court. So for some people, they think, wow, 8% of my house in California, $500,000 house is not unusual. So 8% of 500,000 is $40,000. Did I do that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
$40,000. $40,000. So, or you can find a way to avoid probate, which is what most people do once they know what the tools are. So there's ways to transfer title, ways to hold title, ways to use a trust to avoid the court system and avoid probate. So a lot of people will use those tools to save the money and the time from the probate court.
Judy, so I've also heard, and maybe you can explain just a little bit of this for our viewers. There is a difference of having a will and having a living trust, and in some cases, I've heard that you should have both of them, right?
Absolutely. A will covers everything regarding taking care of people. So if you have minor children, you absolutely want to have a will to name people that would take care of not only their physical care, but their financial care. And they don't have to be the same people. So that's handled in a will. There are other things that a will does that a trust can't do. But what a trust does is make sure you don't have to go to court. For most people, they do that to save the money that we just were discussing and the hassle. Because it's seamless when someone is incapacitated and then they pass away. And often that's the progression. We don't all just, have a trauma or get hit by a bus, right? It's not usually sudden. There's like this progression that could be slow or fast. So the trust deals with all of the things in life that can happen before you pass away. And who would take care of me if I partially can? Who would take care of me if I totally cannot? And then when I pass away, who's going to be in charge of making sure everything gets handled, not only to wrap up my life, the business of my life, but then to get it to the next people. So people that have someone in their life or people in their life that they trust, they can name them as successor trustees. And a successor trustee would take over when I can't, and they would just take over and take the reins and do everything that I would with my assets and then with my person. And a trust does that. So when people talk about a trust, usually they're thinking about a revocable living trust, but there are hundreds of kinds of trusts. A trust is just a contract. And a contract, if it says it, you can do it. If it doesn't say it, you can't do it. So what a revocable living trust does really well, and it's not the only kind of trust I recommend, by the way, but what it does really well is it transfers title to a trust so you can avoid the whole court process, avoid probate. When you look at the word, the name of it, revocable means it's revocable. You can change it, amend it, tear it up, start all over again if you want to. You can change your mind. Living means it lives beyond the natural life of a person. So even when I cannot act for myself, even when I pass away, someone can step into my shoes and just take over the business the way we were going before. And then trust means it's a contract that has three parties. One of the parties is the owner. We call that the settlor. The second party is the manager. We call that the trustee. And initially I would be both. I own it and I'm the trustee of it. And the third party is the beneficiary. So when I don't need it anymore, who is the other beneficiary or the other beneficiaries going to be? Who are they going to be? So you have the owner, the manager, and the beneficiaries. Initially, with a revocable living trust, ordinarily, the person setting up the trust, the settlor, is all three. So if you have a husband and wife, they're the settlers of the trust. They build the thing and they put all their assets in it. They title their assets that way. They're also the trustees, as long as one or both of them can act. And then they're also the beneficiaries initially. And then when they pass away, that there's successor beneficiaries or remaindermen. So hopefully that helps a little bit. The difference really is if you have a will, you're in court. If you have a trust, you're not. That's the big general difference if it's constructed properly.
Excellent. I appreciate that. That's a great answer. Thank you, folks, for joining us this morning. We are here talking with Judy Copenbarger, our Tuesday morning show, Money Truth Moments with Judy Copenbarger. Please make sure that you follow her at judycopenbarger.com. And this morning, we're talking about how to legally protect yourselves and your family. Judy just spoke to us about the difference between a will and a trust / living trust as well. Something that I wanted to ask is a follow-up question to that. And I've heard you mention this before, and I know that we have new viewers that would benefit from this also, is there was a portion where we discussed about kids having a medical, I forget what the word was, but if they're 13 or older, if we don't have that medical directive, right, for them, we can't really make, as a parent, we're kind of like in limbo, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. And the age is 18. You're so close. It's 18, not 13.
Okay.
And that's when in the United States, we become a legal adult. We're supposed to be able to handle all of our things legal and be responsible for ourselves. So at the age of 18, on your 18th birthday, if you don't have a healthcare power of attorney or directive to physician, no one has been named legally to act for you in the event that you have a medical emergency. So it's not a big deal. If you go to the hospital and you broke your leg and you're going to have surgery, you say, hey, I'm in college. That's my dad. Let him make decisions for me. That's my mom. Let her in. That's my older sister, whatever. But if you're unconscious, and it happens every day in most major hospitals, if not every day, if not in every hospital, there are traumas where people come in, they've had a bad trauma or a bad accident, they're immediately taken into surgery, and they might even be in a coma for a little while they're recovering, or on a ventilator where they can't communicate. So if there's something going on medically and they're not able to say, that's my dad, talk to him, that's my mom, talk to her, legally, the medical professions under the HIPAA rules cannot give any information to anyone. They can't even say if you're in that hospital legally.
Right.
In a small town, they might say, I've known Johnny and his mama for years, I know he would want mama to make the decision. But legally, that's not okay. And in metropolitan areas, you are not going to get a hospital to break that rule and risk hundreds of thousands of dollars in penalties for giving you information, even though you're the mama, even though you're the wife, even though you're the husband. So it's not just children that are turning 18, it's spouses too. Without a directive or a power of attorney in writing that's properly executed with the HIPAA language, you cannot make medical decisions for another person, even if they're in your immediate family or your spouse. So you've got to have that. But it's a big deal. People don't think about it with their child. This is my child. The other day they were playing soccer, with the other little kids, and and they were in the back of the minivan, right? And now they're off to college. They're actually an adulting and doing legally adult things. So this is the beginning of thinking about what do they need to protect their estate and put their financial house in order. So very important for those of you with grandkids that are coming of age, turning into adults, or they already are young adults, or if you're the parent of one of those. I think on your 18th birthday, you ought to get a birthday cake with candles and a directive, to sign, just so you're covered.
That's a great idea.
Heaven forbid you would ever need a document like that. But if you do, it's a really big deal if you don't have it. You have a car accident Friday night, you can't talk to the doctors or the surgeons until Monday when the court says it's okay. I mean, it's awful to go through. And most people who've had this happen in their family or with people close to them, and they have finally understood that how grave it can be to not have this, it's a big deal, and they immediately get them prepared. So this is just a way to know, before you need to know, learn from other people's experience, that's a document you want to put on your short list of things to do when you have a young person in your life that's getting ready to launch.
Yeah. And I will tell you, I'll share something very brief with you also. When my sister was in her last days in the hospital too, I found out as I kept calling, the nurses wouldn't talk to me or the doctors. And I kept saying, I'm her brother. I'm her brother. Well, you're not in her medical directive. I never knew my sister actually created one. And the whole mix up of this happens that the person she appointed was her best friend that was very close to her. And I guess she did this years ago when I was working up in Northern California. We had moved over there for, at least 3 years. So in that time, she made it so in case something happened to her and I was that far away, that somebody else would be able to help her. Well, what she didn't think about in the long term, like we just found out, was that she never switched it back once I was back in Southern California. And so I'm sharing this because it so relates to what you're saying. And sometimes we forget, right? I mean, we create these documents and it may be months, years that we just, they're in a safe somewhere. We forget all about it, but life changes and we forget to update some of that too. And I think that's super important. Would you agree?
I totally agree. And I'm so sorry that happened to you. Case in point, just one little change, even if it was at her hand, without an attorney or something, just in her hand, would have made all the difference for you to be able to get the communication that would have been so vital at that time and know what was going on and be able to do that. And thankfully, it sounds like her friend was available to make medical decisions. Yeah. She was still available for her. Yeah.
Yeah. She actually would call me in a 3-way call with the doctor. So, the doctor knew I was her brother, but it was just, again, like you're saying, it's the rules. So as long as she was on the phone and I was there, I was still making the decisions, but we always had to involve her,
Yeah. Yeah, where it can really be bad is if that person was unavailable, they passed away or they moved to New Jersey or something,
right.
Far away, and we can't get a hold of them now. You're naked. You've got nothing. And the doctors will not give, as you know, they will not give information. They can't do it. So just sorry that happened, but it's just a good reminder to make sure our houses are in order. And it's not
Absolutely.
Like you do it once, you put it in the safe and you go, yeah, check the box. Life does happen. Your assets change. The people in your life change. Your location changes. Your children are little. And then they, before you know it, they come of age. And at some point they might make decisions for you rather than a parent or a spouse or a sibling. So it's a really good thing to every year or two bring those out, dust them off, look at them, or just have a really great team in place, a financial and legal team, tax, CPA team, that they're all collaborating together. And this is how our practice works. It's very collaborative. And so we handle all those 5 pillars of finance and we work together to make sure that our house not only is put in order, but it stays that way forever. So I love that you brought that up. It might be a really great reminder for some viewers to, if they haven't done it, take steps to do that. And if they have, to just kind of dust it off and review it and make sure that everything is the way that they would like it to be.
Absolutely. And so, folks, this has been another great nuggets and wisdoms from Judy, talking about how we can legally protect ourselves. We cover several aspects of chapter 4 in her book. And if you're not aware of her book, I'm going to show you, because this is what I've been following. It's the Money Truth Life book. It's a #1 bestseller on Amazon. And we're fortunate that Judy gets to spend some time with us every Tuesday morning talking about everyday life, talking about things in her book about money, truth, and life. And as you know, the show is called Money, Truth, Moments. And we're fortunate that she takes time out of her schedule to share with us her wisdom. So with that said, one of my favorite times for the show is our It's our Money Truth Challenge. And Judy's been giving us several challenges over the past few weeks. Last week's challenge is actually going to go on for about a month or so. So I want to focus on this week. And what have you got for us?
Wow. Well, this week it's a little bit more about goals and about your long-term planning. And the other day I was counseling with a young gentleman who was really thinking about transition. He's like, I'm not really crazy about my job, my career, and I'm kind of thinking I want to change and I could move, but I'm kind of not sure how to figure that out because I have some debt and I should probably pay off the debt. And it's risky, to drop a job and then maybe pick up a whole new career and get a couple of credentials and things like that. So I said, are you running from something or are you running to something? That really made him think. And I use that often when people are like so uncomfortable, they just want to get away from their circumstance or what's going on, the season in life. And there's a lot of that this year. In 2020 here, we've got people in all kinds of transition, some in a wonderful way, and some are really not in a good place. So are they looking to go to something or from something? And it's just about intent. What is your intent? So if you're running from something, you're really living in a place of fear, and your decisions are not going to be based on really good counsel and really good information. If you're running to something, it's about goals, it's about creating, it's about innovation, it's about what are the results that I want? What's the outcome that I want at the other end of this transition? If it's a new location, maybe it's for the weather, maybe it's for an opportunity for the children, maybe it's for employment or to open a business in a new sector that maybe is new to you. Maybe it's for education. Maybe it's to be near extended family or to be in a place where you can look after your family or your parents, in their later years. So when you think about what you're going to, what's the outcome in a year or 2 or 5 or 10? What would be the result of having made that transition, having made that change? So here's your challenge. The challenge is to write down an area of life that you're really wrestling with a transition. And there might be many. So this might be a challenge that gets broadened by scope. But just pick one area of life for our purposes that you really are wanting to make a change or need to make a change. And then write down 3 action items that you can employ, action items that you can take into your schedule about how you can be intentional in that route. So what are 3 things that I can do that are intentional, not fear-based, but they're intentional, that will get me the outcome I want in the transition I want? And an example with this young man is he might come up with, well, it'll put me on a path for a new career where I can make more money long-term because I'd like to, have a family one day, and where he lives, he's going to really need some cash to do that. Another thing he might come up with is his joy will increase because right now the work that he's doing is very unsatisfying. He's really great at what he does. He's knowledgeable, but he is not feeling fulfilled at the end of the day. He feels like his energy is drained. So the challenge is to come up with a transition that's going on in your life or that you'd like to make, something intentional, an area of life that you can be intentional in, and then 3 action items or 3 ways that you can actually be intentional in that area. And we'll see what you guys come up with next week. I'm excited to see what kind of transitions are happening out there.
No, and that's a great challenge. I already wrote this down, and I am excited to share this out even with a few of my colleagues to see what other answers that we can gather for next week's show for sure.
Wonderful.
So what do you have for this week? I know that you're traveling. Do you have any speaking engagements coming up this week?
I do. Later this week, I have 2. I have one that's international, and it's wonderful. It's with the Liftoff Group, and they help people get their lives in order with mindset. And so when you put the mindset and the money together, you've got a lot of your life handled, right? You want to do it. You can do it, and now you've got the cash to do it. You can make any transition. You can take your life to the next level. So I'm excited about that one. We also have another Les Brown event coming up next week. And I'll be a keynote speaker on that one. And that one is just great. Yeah, it's just people in every area of life. It's very heavily focused on personal development and business. So a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of great resources for people in business or CEO level. And then there's great information, great resource for anyone that just wants to grow and just keep getting better every day, sharpening their skills every day.
Awesome. And folks, we will let you guys know. We will post when these events are coming up. Follow Judy at judycopenbarger.com. She is on social media. She's all over the place, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it. She's out there sharing her wisdom, sharing her truth, sharing her money, truth, and life. So I want to, again, say thank you so much for joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedule. And, I look forward to our next show for next week. Is there any parting words before we go today?
Yeah, just keep in mind how you can be intentional. And if you're in transition, what do you want to run to? Focus on where you want to go, not where you've been.
I like that. All right, Judy, we're signing off. Thanks again. Be safe, and we will talk to you soon. See you guys next week. Again, follow Judy at judycopenbarger.com. Thanks for joining us.